everyone and welcome to my Guardians of the Galaxy reading vlog. This week, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 airs in the UK. At last, it's finally releasing and I am so excited because I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're some of my favourite Marvel characters. I'm a little bit nervous because this one is the one where all of the actors' contracts are running out, so it's entirely likely that we're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of these characters and they're going to get killed off, which I'm not exactly excited for. And with it being a new release week, that means I'm going to be reading a ton of Guardians of the Galaxy related stuff as well. That means I'm going to be reading Guardians of the Galaxy team up things, as well as the Annihilation event, which actually led to the Guardians in the first place being a team and the meeting for the first time, as well as a whole load of solo stuff, as well as things to do with Adam Warlock and also the High Evolutionary, who are all characters who are confirmed to be in this movie. So I'm going to be reading all of these kind of things and taking you along with me and giving you kind of like a sort of guide to what you can read, what's the best things to maybe start with, what maybe is best to avoid if you're new to Guardians of the Galaxy comics, all of that kind of thing, and kind of giving you sort of a video guide that goes alongside all of my blog posts that I've been posting on the Comic Book Sanctum, which is linked down below. So I'm going to be starting with a couple of the solo things because it's a bit late in the day now. I've spent half my day like blogging at this point, so it's a little bit late in the day, so I don't want to start the Annihilation event or anything at the moment, and I'm going to start instead with some of the solo things. I think I'm going to start with maybe Rocket and go from there, and I will obviously update you when I've read something and what I think about it. So let's get going. I will say though that before I go into talking about the movie, I will give a lot of warning, and I will also timestamp it so you know when you can just skip straight forward to when I start talking about comics again, all of that kind of thing, so you do not get spoiled for anything if you don't want to get spoiled before you see the movie. So I think that's all I've got to say. So I'm going to get on with it now and see what I think of some Rocket comics and maybe some Drax if I've got some time. So let's get going and see what I think. I'm only 2 issues in, but I'm already loving the colour palette of this. This looks really much like I Hate Fairyland, which makes a lot of sense because this is actually written and drawn by the same person who made I Hate Fairyland, Scotty Young. But it's just giving me that I Hate Fairyland vibes in terms of like how people are swearing, how we've got a lot of like weird, funny, fantastical things happening around here. There's quite a lot of like humour in here as well, and also like I said, the colour palette is very similar, as well as obviously the drawing style because it's Scotty Young, and Scotty Young has a very distinctive drawing style. But overall, like I said, 2 issues in, really enjoying this. I just had to point that out because I Hate Fairyland is one of my all-time favourite comics ever, and I like pointing out when Scotty Young does other things and it kind of references that in different weird ways. That's a Buffy reference. That is a season 6 Buffy reference. Wasn't expecting it. I love it, but I wasn't expecting that. Really wasn't. I've now finished Scotty Young's entire Rocket Raccoon run. This was 11 issues long and this was really fun. It was just sort of a slightly interconnected story, mainly one-shots all about Rocket and generally Groot as well, having adventures around the galaxy, getting into trouble with the law and sometimes saving the world, sometimes generally just being chaotic as per usual, while also with this overarching idea of Rocket being the last of his kind and also trying to figure out exactly his backstory because you can't remember it. It's a really fun run filled with humour and like their friendship and everything else. It was really well done. I really enjoyed the art style, as you saw from those shots that I showed you, as well as a lot of different pop culture references as well to like Gilmore Girls, Buffy, and things like this the whole way through. Star Wars, that was one of them. Things like this. I especially really enjoyed issue 5, I think it is, which is Rocket and Groot telling kids a story about one of their adventures, and it's basically told entirely through Groot's point of view, so you're literally just getting all of the words on the pages I am Groot over and over and over and over again, and you just have to tell the story via the like artwork. I found that really fun. That was like really funny, and things like this that did make me laugh. All of it was just really good, really fun. If you are new to Guardians of the Galaxy, or if you just like Rocket and want to read some Rocket stuff, I think this is pretty good because it really doesn't rely on you having loads and loads of Marvel knowledge in terms of like the comics or anything. As long as you've watched the movies, you should be fine reading this because it's the similar sort of dynamics, the similar sort of backstory, things like this. I'm going to give it this 4 stars each because I had a really good time reading it, and yeah, I definitely think that was a good start, and it's also a good place to start if you are new to comics and you want to read some. Definitely try out Skottie Young's work because it is really good, really fun, and this was a really great way to just kick off this week and just read more Rocket and Groot escaping from like the police and causing havoc around the galaxy. Always a good time, really good fun. Definitely enjoyed it, definitely recommend. It's now Saturday and I haven't updated you since Monday. To say the least, time got away with me this week. I haven't read anything whatsoever further than those Rocket comics I was talking about in the last clip. And to be honest, the only thing I have done for this vlog is watch Guardians of the Galaxy. So we're going to quickly talk about it here. I'm going to put a tag here so you know when to skip to. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can just skip past all of this stuff about me talking about the movie so you don't get spoiled. So you have now officially been warned. If you are still here, I'm guessing you don't mind about spoilers. So I loved this movie. It was so much darker than I was expecting in a lot of ways. I was really not expecting it to be as dark as it was, especially in terms of like Rocket's past and what was done to him, what the High Evolutionary was doing in general, like experimenting on animals and then also children, and then killing literally anything that doesn't work in his mind and things like this. Was so dark. It was unbelievable. Like, we're talking like Black Widow opening dark here. I was really shocked that that was where this film went in terms of obviously the fact that this is a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, not that this is a Marvel movie. I know Marvel can get dark. I mean, Infinity War, Endgame and also Black Widow, like I said, are incredibly dark movies in a lot of ways, but I wasn't expecting it from a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which are usually quite these sort of light, funny movies instead, which is absolutely fine. I love that about the Guardians, and this one definitely had its light and funny moments, but everything that happened to Rocket, the bit that really got me was when Nebula said what happened to Rocket was worse than what Thanos did to her, and that has to be saying something because obviously he literally dissected her and put like robot bits on her and things like this, and that was something very similar to what Rocket went through. And while you don't physically see what they did to Rocket, you can hear it as she's saying this and how everyone else is reacting, and that moment was, I was not expecting it from a Guardians movie, to say the least, but it was absolutely wonderfully done. I'm so like really happy with how this movie went, especially with like the High Evolutionary and things like this. It was a very interesting, very good sort of like look into Rocket's past while also dealing with like what's happening with the Guardians now. I really liked that. I really liked how it tied like the Sovereign into the High Evolutionary, how he got Counter Earth, Adam Warlock, all the rest of it, while also continuing on everybody else's stories. I really like that this movie is still all about like family and protecting your family and like the love of family and all the rest of it. I really enjoyed those themes of it, like I always do with the Guardians. I just generally really like this one, and I am so glad that nobody died. Like, I am so glad. Like, I thought Rocket was dead for a bit, and I was just like, oh hell no. And then I thought Peter was gonna die when he's floating through space before Adam gets him, and I was like sobbing at this point because I was just like, I can't take this. I can't lose Peter Quill. Like, I didn't think I'd be this bad, but I was like sobbing in the cinema. Not as bad as I was when Tony died, don't get me wrong. That is like the top level of me sobbing my heart out at a Marvel movie right now. But this was a proper like crying moment. And like the whole way through that whole like ending scene where like where it looks like Peter's dead and then they all hug him and then they all say goodbye to each other, I was crying like a baby, especially when like obviously they're all saying goodbye to each other and they're getting teary about it, and then Groot says I love you guys, and you could tell that they'd stopped editing his voice so much so it sounded like Vin Diesel while still sounding like Groot, and that just really got me. I don't know if it's just because I've also been watching Fast and Furious for the first time or what, but that really hit me when I heard that. And obviously seeing them all like really upset about all leaving each other and like going their own separate ways, things like this was really sad, but I'm also like really happy where everybody's left off with like Gamora's with like the Ravagers, so she's quite happy living like a more outlaw-y life. So I'm really happy where Gamora is. I'm really happy where Nebula is because she's healing her childhood traumas through like leading Nowhere and having rescued all of these children from the High Evolutionary, and she's giving them the life that she never had. I think that is absolutely beautiful. I love the fact that Drax is also there raising these kids as well, and he's like being a dad and that kind of thing. I'm really glad about that. I also really like the fact that we got to see Nebula sort of show more of her like emotions in this one, because Nebula's been very sort of standoffish for a very long time, because obviously that's how she survived essentially. So it was really nice to see like how much she cares about the other Guardians, especially when they think Rocket's gone and then she hears his voice and she starts crying. That really like stood out to me as well, because obviously Karen Gillan like acted that brilliantly. She's acted everything perfectly throughout these movies. I think she's one of the best actresses within the Guardians movies. But that moment really got to me, and it really sort of cemented for me what those blip years did for Nebula and Rocket, because they were the only two Guardians left. So it was really nice to see that how much they care about each other in that sense, and like how much she really cares about Rocket and like things like this, because before now we've only really seen her care about Gamora, so it was really nice to see her care about somebody else. I also really like Peter's ending actually, with him coming back down to Earth again. I found that really fun, because obviously Peter has been running from Earth ever since he was 8 years old when he was taken by Yondu. So that was a really cool ending. I really like that, and I really like that it said the legendary Star-Lord will return, which probably means we're going to be getting the Spartax Empire next, which is very exciting when Peter eventually goes back to space, because I don't see him staying on Earth for that long, because he's lived his entire life in space, and I see him in the next couple of years coming back up to space again for whatever reason. Probably just to find his friends again and stuff like this after he's like healed obviously that trauma within him as well. But I was really happy with his ending as well, because obviously he's all about family and like stuff like this. So it was really nice to see him reconnect with like biological family, and be back on Earth again and trying to heal that trauma as well. I really loved Yondu's cameo. That was beautiful to see Yondu again talking to Kraglin, or like Kraglin remembering him and saying like he doesn't use his head, he uses his heart for the arrow. That was really nice. I loved Mantis's ending as well, in terms of her like going off and finding out who she is herself, because obviously she's never really had that until now, because she's always been like Ego's assistant slash daughter, and then she's been a Guardian of the Galaxy and Peter's. I'm gonna turn my laptop sound off, otherwise that's going to keep on going off. But she's been Peter's sister as well, and obviously like she's defined herself by these things, so it was really nice to see her go, no, I'm going to find out who I am and things like this, because obviously she's such a powerful character in the comics. She is the Celestial Madonna essentially. She is the mother of a very powerful destined Celestial. So that was like, I'm excited to see where Mantis is going to go from here, and hopefully we are going to see more of her. I think none of the Guardians we're going to, like, go, like, I don't think we're never going to see any, like, I don't think, what I'm saying is, I don't think these Guardians will not return, essentially. I think we will still see them again in various different places. I should mention Rocket and Groot as well. I really love Rocket and Groot's storyline. And seeing like those two like continue on as Guardians, and Rocket becoming the leader of the Guardians and sort of healing as well from his trauma and things like this, that was really nice. I was really like, I really loved to see that, and seeing like that whole dance scene at the end with them, and then obviously him leading the Guardians in that mid-credit scene talking about music and things like this. I really liked that. I really liked their storyline. My only thing with this movie that I would have liked a little bit more of is Groot reacting to Rocket dying and like actively dying and being attacked and things like this, because I don't think we got that much of it. We got a few little bits, but I would have liked more from that, because obviously Rocket and Groot are so close, and James Gunn has confirmed that when Groot turned to dust, he said, "I am Groot," but what he was actually saying was Dad, and he was talking about Rocket. He views Rocket as like a father figure, so I would have liked a little bit more of that kind of thing, because when Groot died in the first Guardians, we saw how upset Rocket was, so I would have liked a little bit more on that opposite side of it. But at the same time, that would have broken my heart, so swings and roundabouts in that one, but definitely just a definite, like, I would have liked a little bit more of that, but apart from that, this movie was absolutely brilliant. I loved Adam Warlock as well. He was brilliant. He only had like 10 minutes of screen time, but I'm so excited to see where he's going to go next. All of this kind of stuff, I loved all of that, and I genuinely really just loved this movie a lot. I saw it twice the day it came out, so that gives you a kind of idea of how much I loved it. But I cried, I laughed. It is definitely one of the best Marvel movies, I reckon. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm so excited to see where all these characters are going to go next. And now that I've finished talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, I need to read something. I was originally planning on reading the entirety of the Annihilation event and then the Dan Abnett Guardians of the Galaxy, because that is where the team officially formed. And then also Adam Warlock and the High Evolutionary in it, but I do not have time for that. For context, this video needs to be uploaded in 2 days. It was meant to be uploaded yesterday at time of filming, and I just had no clips for it, so I couldn't upload it, so I had to upload it as something else instead. So I desperately need to get this video up, which means I need to read something. I do not have time for the Annihilation event, so I've got 2020 Guardians of the Galaxy, a couple of solo stuff for like Drax, things like this. I'm going to just work my way through whatever I can over the next couple of days and just sort of give you my thoughts and feelings on those, because I do not have time to read that giant, huge like event or anything, so I'm just going to have to compromise and go for some shorter stuff instead. It's not what I wanted from this vlog, but life decided to basically life. So I'm going to set everything up and get going on reading that, because this vlog needs to be vlogged and I need to do some reading. So I'm going to get on and read some Guardians. I think I'm going to start with Guardians, may go with Drax instead, maybe some Adam Warlock. I'm going to see what I feel like when I read the synopsises, and then I will tell you what I think about what I've read when I've read something. I actually just got started with Cosmo the Space Dog, which is a Infinity comic that literally just came out this week. It actually came out on the 5th, so yesterday actually. And this was a really fun little thing to read. It's very, very short. It took me like 2 minutes to read it. And this is all about Cosmo on Nowhere, and there's a whole load of like, there's a really big banging noise that is shaking the entirety of Nowhere, the head of the Celestial. And she's like, what the hell is going on? And she goes to investigate with the rest of the Guardians, and it was a really sweet thing, really fun. It doesn't actually rely on you knowing anything about like any comic stuff, so if you have Marvel Unlimited, you can get hold of this and you can just read this. As long as you've essentially just watched the movies, you'll be fine reading this, and it's a really fun, really sweet little thing. So good start. I'm going to give that like a 4 stars. That was quite, actually no, I'm going to give it 5, because that was just really cute. So yeah, good start today actually. I wasn't expecting to read some Infinity comics, but makes sense. Either way, that's a very good one to start with. Adam Warlock's Infinity comic has also now been read. That one is a really good one actually if you want a good sort of primer that's really quick to read about Adam Warlock. It gives you a bit about like how he was created, how he's met a couple of other people, how he got his name, that kind of thing, what he stands for, all of the rest of it. That's a really good sort of like layer sort of base layer thing to read. So if you have Marvel Unlimited, again, use that one. I gave that one 4 stars because it was interesting and the artwork was really good, but it didn't give me anything sort of new because I've been researching Adam Warlock for days now for blog posts. But overall, that was a pretty good read. I have also now read a one-shot for Guardians of the Galaxy called Dream On, and this one was really fun. I really like this one as well. This one is the idea that the Guardians have all been separated and they have all woken up in a world that is essentially what they dream of, and it is exactly what they want, and they have to figure out exactly what's happened to them, that kind of thing. It was really fun, really sort of like, I think it'd be a really good sort of mini Marvel presentation kind of thing, sort of like the holiday special they did, because it's a nice short contained story. It was just a good time, and I really liked as well that as they're going around collecting everybody, Rocket's in his world and he's just like, I've got everything I've ever wanted kind of thing, and Peter's like, not everyone, and Rocket's like, I don't care about you lot, obviously lying. And then the next panel you've got him being held upside down by his tail, being held by Drax as they're walking into Groot's one, and he's like, fine, I don't have everyone kind of thing. I found that really fun. I love that relationship between Rocket and Groot. I love that so much. And now I'm actually going to go on to the, I want to say 2020 Guardians of the Galaxy comic. I think it was 2020. Give me 2 seconds, I've got to get to it. I still had Dream On still open. I should also mention Dream On had a short with it as well from a comic from like the 60s or something about the Guardians of the Galaxy from the year 3000. That was quite interesting because it kept on going and looping back to characters from the year 2000, and Yondu was also there, and Yondu is very different in the comics than he is compared to the films, so that was quite interesting. But I'd say it's a little bit sexist and a little bit overwritten and very much of its time in that sense, so that wasn't as fun. But the Dream On comic was. I've also got Mother Entropy that I could read. I'm trying to remember what that one's about. I'm just having a quick flick through. Pip the Troll. Okay then, we're going for this one because the Guardians owe everyone money on Nowhere, and they need to desperately get some money, and they end up helping Pip the Troll. And I know Pip the Troll from the Eternals movies, so I'm going to read this one first and see what I think of this one, and see if it's a good one for people to read if they have never read a Guardians comic before or whatever. So I will update you when there's something to say. Mother Entropy was a reasonable read. I'd say it's, I wouldn't say it's for anyone who's new to Guardians of the Galaxy, because we are dealing with things like the Shi'ar Empire. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. I say Shi'ar, but it's an alien empire kind of thing, and you probably need a little bit of knowledge there as well of like Pip the Troll and things like this, more than you know from just watching Guardians, not Guardians of the Galaxy and the Eternals, things like this. But it was a pretty good time. I'm only going to give it 3 stars though, because while it was fun, it was not my favourite. There wasn't really anything standing out to me, and there were also a couple of like sexist and slightly fatphobic comments and things like this that just were not necessary in here. So 3 stars. Interesting, pretty good time, not my favourite. And now I'm going on to the 2020 Guardians of the Galaxy, starting with Then It's Us, and this is by Al Ewing, and I'm pretty sure this is the one where it turns out Peter is bisexual, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure it's this one, judging by the write-up. But I will let you know when I've read some of it, and obviously I will report back when something really fun happens. Quick thing to point out on this one right now, I am talking about Marvel Boy here. He has just introduced himself, talking about like where he's come from, that kind of thing, and then also given his pronouns, which not usual in a comic, to be fair. I think it's not very usual in books in general, to be honest, so really appreciate that, because that is a good step in the right direction, and I like that it was used within his introduction by him, and it sort of normalises like saying to people what your pronouns are, so very appreciative of this line. Quill appears to be dead and everyone seems to be mourning, and I'm more concerned with the fact that Groot seems to be reading a Captain Marvel comic. Okay, he's reading a Captain Marvel comic. I know comics are canon within the Marvel Universe, but it's kind of cool that Groot's got a hold of one of them and he's now reading them. There is no way this bit is not inspired by Discworld. I mean, it looks like a turtle with the city on top of it. Not quite entirely Discworld because it's missing the actual disc and the elephants, but that has to be a Discworld reference. Has to be. I've now just finished the first 2 volumes of Guardians of the Galaxy by Al Ewing, and to be honest, I'm not going to continue and read the final volume because this relies so heavily on Empire and also the King in Black events, and I have not admittedly read those yet because I've been trying to catch up with Fantastic Four and also the X-Men and everything else, and I, to be honest, haven't read that much Venom in the past either, so I haven't read King in Black yet either, so all of this is just being bogged down a lot by all of that, and I haven't read those yet, so I can't really sort of enjoy this to its full potential because I haven't read all of the main events that these tie into, but to be honest, so it's not really working for me in that sense, and so, like, my professional opinion as a comic book reader is that if you have not read Empire or King in Black, don't read this because you will be very confused as to what's going on. I have a basic idea of Empire and also obviously King in Black, mainly because I've been doing a lot of like reading guides on these things and stuff like this, so I know a fair amount of like what happens in these and why people are fighting and why Null's here and like what they're talking about with like Hulkling and all the rest of it, but if you haven't read those, this will not make any sense whatsoever, so maybe avoid this one. This is also the one, though, I will say, where Peter does end up in an alternate reality where he is in a bisexual polyamorous relationship, but that entire thing covered 120 years in the space of 23 pages, so it really sped through all of that as well. You didn't get any sort of like proper confirmation of it. It's just very much hinted at very heavily that he's in this bisexual polyamorous relationship, but it's never properly on page, and it's just literally like these 23 pages that covers 100 years on this brand new world we don't know anything about, and Peter having this big like glow up, but quite literally empowers and all the rest of it, so that was really disappointing in that sense. I really enjoyed the fact that they've added Peter to the LGBTQIA plus Marvel characters, but I definitely needed more from that. So what I'm going to do now is try and read, I'm thinking, a Adam Warlock comic, and then I may wrap this up. I'll see if I've got time for one more or not, but yeah, that was not my favourite. I'm giving each volume 3 stars. I may enjoy them more when I've read Empire and King in Black, but at the moment, not really my thing, or at least kind of disappointing for me and a bit confusing, so avoid that if you haven't read those events either, and hopefully Adam Warlock will go better for me. We shall see. And now I've just finished Greg Pak's 2004 Warlock. Now, this one worked more of like a sort of, I don't know, what if type scenario instead, in terms of like Adam Warlock and creating Adam Warlock and all of that kind of thing, so definitely not one if you don't really know anything about Adam. I'd say it's not exactly the clearest thing in the world and sort of comes together at the end, but a little bit iffy on that one. It was an interesting look at Adam as a character and sort of giving that what if scenario, but I don't think I'd recommend it to new comic book readers, and I gave it 3 stars. I've now just read the 2005 Drax the Destroyer run, and this was a little bit interesting, just a little bit weird and a little bit sort of at the same time, because this is a sort of alternative look at Drax, and we're following him after he's been on a prison ship and it's been like destroyed. It's crash landed on Earth in a small town in Alaska, and these 2 young kids get caught up in what's going on while other prisoners are trying to escape the planet by essentially enslaving the whole town to try and rebuild their ship and get out of there, while Drax is kind of fighting them in a way. It's a weird one. I'm not entirely sure what just happened, despite the fact that I read all 4 issues. Yeah, it was alright, just a bit confusing and just a little bit sort of it was fun to see that kind of, like, seeing Drax as like a main character and seeing him like by himself, that kind of thing, but overall it was just a bit yeah, so I gave it 3 stars. The 2015 Drax run is certainly a lot more interesting than the 2005 one. We are dealing with the Guardians. They've all sort of like split off to go do like various different solo missions, things like this, and Drax has gone back to deciding that he's going to go after Thanos because that is his main goal in life. It's his only goal in life, is to kill Thanos, essentially. So he's going to go back to that, but he ends up with like a terrible ship. He crash lands on a planet, finds out loads of things are going missing, and children are also going missing, and people in general are going missing, and he ends up getting involved with like space dragons, bounty hunters, all the rest of it. So that was a lot more fun than the 2005 one. It actually brings back one of the human characters from that 2005 run into this one as well, which was great fun to see. Also, we saw Pip the Troll again, which was really fun because I quite like Pip the Troll, because you never know what he's going to come up with next and what he's going to do next, so that was fun. And this was generally just a lot more fun. If you know Drax like from the movies, I'd definitely say that this is probably a good one to actually read. Just run with it, I'd say, though, in terms of the space dragons, because you are dealing with a named space dragon who is Fin Fang Foom, and I will say that this does have racist connotations to it because of when it was originally written, so please be warned about that. And essentially you do just have to run with it. Just know that it's a space dragon, that kind of thing, and it talks, and then you can sort of run with it that way. You don't really need to have read the 2005 Drax either, I'd say, to understand where the human characters come from, but overall it was quite fun. There was a lot of battles in this one. There was a lot of like sort of talking about like Drax's character and the fact that he's just obsessed with getting hold of Thanos and killing him, that kind of thing. So in that sense it was a good time. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars for the entire run because it was fun, but it was still not my favourite. Now it's time for me to pause for lunch, and then I think I may try and read an Adam Warlock thing. I've got the 1998 Adam Warlock as well as the 1993 Adam Warlock, so I may try those and see what I think of those, and then that'll be the end of it because I don't think I'll have much more time after that to finish this vlog and edit it today so I can upload it tomorrow. So we'll see how things go, but yeah, I'm right now gonna go pause, have some lunch, and come back and probably read some Adam Warlock. So in this one we are dealing with Adam Warlock, who has discovered that the body of Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, otherwise known as Mar-Vell, has been like taken over. There's been some murders and it's all being controlled by someone from like another universe, which is all quite interesting. But I just wanted to mention these costumes. This is the original costumes for Drax and Gamora. I don't know how well you see Gamora, but essentially, ignore the noise upstairs. So you can see like Gamora's outfit is very sexist, very look at my boobs here, and also just not very a good battle suit. And also she's green and her outfit is green, so that's kind of like just wearing an entirely skin coloured outfit, which just seems weird to me. I don't know, that just feels weird. And also seeing Drax in a cape, that doesn't look right to me. That just does not look right to me whatsoever, because I'm used to like the more modern comics and obviously the MCU iteration of this character, of both characters actually, but I really don't like these costumes. Completely and utterly not the point, but I really don't like these costumes. They are not my favourite whatsoever. And with that, I've now just finished the 1998 Adam Warlock series. It's just called Warlock, and this one was actually quite good in the end. It was quite cheesy in the way that only 90s comics can be. I will say that everything's a little bit overwritten, but that's just what you get for anything pre like 2000s, to be fair, when like comics started like moving forward and things like this with how they actually like wrote themselves and their stories, things like this. But this was quite fun. This featured Adam Warlock ending up teaming up with Gamora and Pip the Troll and a couple of others, Genis Vell, who is the son of the original Captain Marvel, to take down Drax because they think Drax is murdering people, like I said, but it turns out it wasn't Drax, it was someone from the Negative Zone. In terms of readability for anybody who is not as into comics as I am, if you don't know much about I'd say the Marvel Universe in general, maybe skip this one as well, to be fair. Well, maybe not, because this does focus a lot on things like the Negative Zone, which, if you don't know anything about it, you can kind of get away with not really knowing it. It's just like a place, and they say obviously it's like the opposite to the positive zone, which is where the main Marvel universe is. So you can maybe get away with it that way. And with the villains of this one, they're sort of like your basic villains instead of dealing with like your more bigger villains like Thanos or anything. And I wouldn't say you really need that much information about them beforehand. All you really need to know is that Adam Warlock is bonded with the Soul Stone. They call it the Soul Gem, but it's essentially the Soul Stone, and it's got like a vampiric nature to it, and Adam wants it gone, and he has a bit of problems with like regulating his emotions, things like this, when he's got the Soul Stone attached to him essentially, and Gamora is in love with him. That's what we really need to know. The rest of it is sort of explained throughout, I'd say. Pip does do a bit of a quick sort of rundown of who Adam is and how he came to be a hero, that kind of thing, and a little bit about the Infinity Watch, all of that kind of thing. So in that sense you don't really need to know anything else because it's covered within the comics pages. So yeah, actually in the end, thinking about it, I would actually recommend this one if you are new to Marvel Comics but you want to know a bit more about Adam Warlock, or maybe seeing a few other other Guardians you're used to, that kind of thing, or if you're just interested in Pip the Troll after the Eternals movie and that end credit scene. This covers it all, and it's a pretty good story actually in the end. It's a little bit cheesy, a little bit dated, and the costumes, like I said, are a little bit weird when you are used to like the MCU versions, but overall it wasn't too bad. But I think that's now where I'm going to leave this vlog, because I don't really have time to read anything else today, and this vlog needs to be up tomorrow and I need time to edit it. So I'm going to edit this vlog right now as soon as I finish filming it, and actually, you know, get it ready to be uploaded. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me a character you would love to see me do this kind of vlog for in the future. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a spaceship or space related emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is filled with all things Guardians of the Galaxy. So if you haven't had enough recommendations from this video, I do have a few more listed down below in the blog posts that are linked down below as well, so you can check that out if you're interested. I'll also leave a link as well down below to my Etsy store, which also sells bookish merch if you're interested in that as well. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!